All right, welcome to Below the Belt Boats. Below the
Sorry.
Love it.
Nice. Edit that out. Welcome to Below the Belt Sports YouTube channel. This is our countdown to baseball. Today we welcome Chuck and Chinni. For you guys want to introduce yourselves, tell everyone where you're at, but we're just going to talk fandom. This is our fourth edition of our countdown to baseball, getting ready, just talking about everything baseball. So how you guys doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. So I've been watching the videos online, and it's good to be here. So
yeah, thanks, appreciate it. Chuck, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming for baseball to start. Full season now. Hopefully, the real thing. Now it all counts. So I'm excited.
What were your guys' thoughts on like the 2020 season? Like, did you a lot of people have discounted it. Do you kind of feel that there's like an asterisk kind of riding on it, or do you kind of feel like it was what it was and we got, enough out of it? What do you think?
I mean, I feel like it was good to have anything, like you come in and, all these sports. I'm sorry. I'm like, my mind's wandering. But yeah, I mean, you look at what happened with COVID, and you see all the destruction around you, and it's like it's good to have anything. So 50 games, it wasn't 162, whatever. But I feel like in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. Like as a Yankee fan, I didn't feel cheated by the 50 games. It was like, yeah, it didn't really work to our advantage in terms of depth. But just to have anything, it was nice because, you started hearing about the reports with COVID, and it's like, we were lucky to have anything. So even getting those summer videos with like Clark Schmidt and those guys, pitching to empty stadium, it was good to have. So.
Yeah, the empty stadium videos were honestly kind of cool. Like it's as much as like we wanted to be there, like they're kind of like in a way like cryptic cool. You know what I mean? Like I remember seeing Joey Gallo like take batting practice in the new Texas stadium, and it was like honestly kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, that was a sick video to watch. Just him by himself, just an absolute nukes. I mean, it's unfair, that guy.
Chuck, I mean, what did you think of the 2020 season?
Yeah, I agree. I think we got what we got, and I was gonna take it regardless. If we won, I was gonna celebrate as we won, and things would fall our way. I don't think it really affected us or many teams, especially come playoff time. I don't think anyone was affected by COVID that I can remember.
No, not that I mean, the weirdest thing that happened all season, I mean, the Marlins got it pretty bad in the beginning. And then the Cardinals had to deal with it for a little bit. But in terms of like things that like kind of like the big storylines of the season was really how it ended when Justin Turner had it like in like the 7th inning of like the last game, and it was like celebrating with him. So, I mean, I feel like for the most part, we got a pretty solid season out of it, for what it was. Minimal asterisks based on kind of what we were expecting.
Yeah, I think you guys both said it. You can go, Chuck. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just saying.
I was gonna say you guys both said a phrase, and I was echoing it all last year because there really was a point that I didn't think we were gonna get any baseball in 2020. It seemed like both sides were so far apart, and you saw certain fans saying, "If it's not X amount of games, I don't want it." And I never understood that sentiment. Was I happy to have 60 games? No, obviously you want the full 162. But as a baseball fan, if they played a 10-game season on the moon in front of no fans, I would watch it. I mean, the moon would probably add a cool wrinkle. But regardless of whatever number of games it was, I was going to watch it. I was going to be into it. So it sucks not getting a full season, but thank God we at least got something. Because if we were sitting here right now, I hadn't watched a baseball game in like 18 months, I would be losing my mind even more than I already am.
Especially after just signing Garrett Cole too. Like we would have been
yeah. That's what really kind of sucked about it is like we just signed Garrett Cole, and you're coming off like a huge offseason, and it's like bang, you don't even get to do anything. Especially with like Houston too. Mm-hmm. Like we even talking about that. The fact that like they were coming off of probably the biggest scandal since like the steroid scandal, and they didn't even get their proper like booing or whatever. And it's like it's ridiculous, but. I mean, hopefully that never happens again. And I feel like the fan aspect really, really hurts. Like, not to have fans in the building, it definitely takes something out of a moment or even in the playoffs, like Yankees are playing in San Diego, and as a Yankee fan, when in between the lines, it's like you don't realize it and you're just focused on winning. But then you take a step back and you're like, damn, like we actually played in front of nobody in San Diego. Like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, that's not even something I ever thought about. The fact that, like, because I was so used to just being like fuck it, we got baseball. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, what a weird situation that was. Like having to play our ALCS game in front of, ALDS game in front of nobody in like San Diego against the Rays. Like, you would think that like normal situations, like that's a packed house at Yankee Stadium, and probably the same situation. It would have been the same in Tampa Bay because no one really cares about it there. No fans would have been at the game anyway. But like regardless, like for like us, that would have been like awesome to see Stanton just parking home runs off glass now. Like that, like if that home run happened in Yankee Stadium, like it would have erupted.
Mm-hmm.
Or even the other way around, if you're on the road, I think one of the, maybe even sweeter things is watching your guy hit a big playoff home run on the road and a crowd of 50,000 people just going silent. Like either way, you miss out on that fan reaction, whatever it is, positive or negative. I think baseball is especially unique in that sense where you're just kind of waiting for all these buildup and these moments when they happen, the crowd just explodes or goes silent. And, it sucked that we didn't have that. I'm excited to definitely get it back this year.
Yeah, and I think you even heard guys say this year that, or last year, that it was tough because, getting up for 162 or they had to play 62 games in a row, that's a lot of games where fans help as motivation to get through those games sometimes. And you could see some of them, I think I want to say Judge said he struggled with it sometimes, just missing guys.
Yeah. In terms of the rule changes that we kind of had to suffer through, in my opinion, we kind of had to suffer through. Were there any that you guys are on board with and just okay with dealing with, or you were not really feeling it, like the runner on second base in extra innings, 7-inning double headers, things like that? Were you guys just all out, and what'd you think?
The second base is awful. Like I think that's terrible. It's like college overtime. It's just, the concept seems exciting, but in reality, it's absolutely not exciting at all. But I did like the 7-inning doubleheader. I thought that at first I wouldn't really like it, but then sitting down and actually watching a 7-inning game, it was actually kind of interesting. And I think that overall for the pace of play, I think, long term, I think it'll help grow the game because it's not, when you sit down in the first inning, you're not thinking, oh my God, we're in for 9 innings, 4-hour game. We're thinking like, this is a 7-inning game. And even the 2 innings, it makes a huge difference in terms of like just a psychological effect of thinking the game's too long or too slow. You know what I'm saying? So like, I feel like that moving forward can definitely be something that sticks. Another thing I didn't like at all was the playoff format. Like having that extra wildcard team and kind of screwing the team that, did well all year. It's just to play in a 3-game series against, fortunately for the Yankees, we beat Shane Bieber. We had to go up against the Cy Young Award winner in game 1 in a 3-game series after, doing well all year. So I feel like moving forward, that absolutely cannot stick.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't like the second base rule at all. I thought that was, I understand they were trying to move games along, but, I hope it doesn't stay. I thought I heard something that said Manfred liked it. I think, that's not shocking, but,
it kind of felt like a rule when when it's like getting too dark out and they're like, like at the end of like a little league game and you're like, fuck it, just put a guy on second. We got to end this game. Like it just felt so like
so forced.
Exactly. Yeah. But it makes sense that whatever we said, if Manfred likes it, we obviously hate it as fans because he's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the universal DH, the fact they haven't, come to an agreement with that yet is dumb. I think that it's super obvious that you need it in the game. Who wants to watch pitchers, go hit 119 and hit 1 home run a year? Like, it's not exciting whatsoever when you can have guys without a job, like Encarnacion doesn't have a job, who could still hit 240 and put up 30 bombs in the year.
Yeah, it's insanity. Honestly, the equivalent is if a pitcher's getting 1 out of every 9 at-bats in the National League, imagine a position player having to pitch 1 out of every 9 innings. Like, hey, let's take a guy who, he's on the roster, but has no idea how to do this thing. Maybe he'll luck into a 1-2-3 inning every once in a while, just like pitchers luck into a hit every once in a while. But why would we take the job away from, like you said, 15 capable hitters, guys who can absolutely match, hit 30, 40 home runs, just to watch. People will argue back with Jacob deGrom and his like 550 OPS or whatever it is. Like, yeah, it's impressive for a pitcher, but like that guy's focused on pitching. Who cares what you get from him at the plate? So I think it's just utterly stupid that it's 2021 and we're still going to watch pitchers hit.
Well, what are you guys feeling about the Yankees this year? What are your overall thoughts? If you had to sum it up in a general consensus, where do you think they fall in the AL? Where do you think they fall overall?
I mean, this is definitely the best team they've had, I think, since 2009. I mean, you take a look at their pitching staff, I think it has the highest upside of any year. I mean, the past 3 years, I feel like we were sitting here saying like, oh, you got kind of an ace in Severino, and then Tanaka, we kind of know what he's going to be. This year, it's kind of like we're getting a full season of Garrett Cole. Severino's coming back in the summer. You take a look at it and you see what these guys have done in spring training, and it's eye-opening. And all of a sudden, you're taking a look at a staff that like can go 4 or 5 deep instead of having question marks. I think even if you get, you look at Kluber and Tyone, I think if you get maybe one of them to perform to their potential and maybe the other, is disappointment, I think even that is, completely a positive increase from the years past, right? So I feel like pitching wise, they're absolutely deeper and definitely more upside, but this team's going to score runs. So it's really just about October. And the American League's gotten worse. I mean, let's face it, like Houston's worse, they lost Verlander obviously and Cole. And they have, Zach Greinke who's declining. Boston is going to be horrible. And even in our own division, Tampa Bay lost, Blake Snell. So you're looking at a team that if the Yankees don't make the World Series this year, I think it's a utter disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think the pitchers, as Brian said, they've been excellent. You look at every stat line they pop up and you're like, damn, he's having a good spring. He's having a good spring. They're all having good springs, and hopefully it continues throughout. But I think the biggest thing, obviously is health. And if we can have all those players, you look at teams that win, it's because their lineups stay healthy the entire year and they have that continuity the entire year. So I think that's going to be our biggest issue. Other than that, I don't see why we're not in the World Series.
Who do you think is like an X factor? Like I really do think that this lineup comes together and sees its full potential when we see like someone like Gary Sanchez like actually be the Gary Sanchez that he can be. So I think he's like kind of like this, like their like X factor, like who they need to be like what he can be in order for that whole lineup to come together and for that whole team to come together. Defensively, speaking obviously from the defensive side as a catcher, one of the more important positions, and offensively for that lineup. So do you guys have any like big X factors that you're looking at?
I think Corey Kluber is a guy that when I think of X factor, I think of him like he's coming off of an injury and honestly 2 injuries of seasons that like, he used to be one of the most dominant pitchers in the game, and all of a sudden he's an afterthought. And I equate it a lot to like Justin Verlander when he was with Detroit, right? And he was kind of washed. I mean, no one really thought Justin Verlander was like the Justin Verlander of old. And all of a sudden, there's talks of him going to Houston and whatever, or rumors of him being traded. And Yankee fans, including me, were like, I don't know about Justin Verlander. He's kind of washed. He gets traded to Houston. He goes like 5-0 down the stretch, absolutely dominates us in the playoffs. And, they win a World Series. So I feel like if, Corey Kluber is healthy, he's still young. He's 34 years old. I mean, he's a guy that can give you definite production. He's a workhorse. And we are missing that number 2 guy. I feel like that number 2 spot is like up for grabs. Even with Severino coming back, because you don't know how healthy he's going to be. But I look at Corey Kluber and I think that if this guy pitches to his potential, I think that it's a total game changer.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has to be pitching because you go through the lineup and they're all so good that does Gary having a huge season make that much of a difference? I'm sure it will. But then if you have guys like Clint and Urshela hitting 8 and 9, those are guys that are hitting 300, and you saw what they're capable of doing. So you have to choose a pitcher. I would choose either Kluber or Tyone, one of the two. But yeah, I agree.
What do we think about Domingo Germán?
He's looked really good. And I mean, Nick, I know you hate the New York Post. And they absolutely
they're absolutely losing their. I said I'm gonna start one-upping their clickbait because their headline today was Jonathan Loizaga has drawn Mariano Rivera comparisons. So I'm gonna write an article next week and say Tyler Wade's lefty swing has drawn Barry Bonds comparisons. I'm just gonna beat the New York Post at their own game.
I mean, it has to be a full job, right? Like, there's no one that actually thinks that. And like,
no, it's literally it's clickbait.
I want to have like an intervention with these guys and be like, do it. And it's not even the same guy. It's like the entire team there. It's like it was an objective from the top down. Like, all right, we're going to lose our fucking minds this spring and just like whatever your outrageous spring can come up with, like just go for it.
Yeah, no, but in relation to Armand, I do think he's looked really good. I mean, look, if you want to get into the whole does he deserve to be there type thing, that's a conversation for another time. Obviously, what he did is disgusting, but I mean, regardless, it's like Zach Britton said, he's on the team, and to a degree, you just got to deal with it. So I mean, you focus on like what he's doing on the mound, and he's looked good. His stuff has looked sharp. I was kind of worried in the same way I was worried about Tyone and Kluber coming back, after not pitching as much as you want a pitcher to pitch. I mean, you guys both know we were all pitchers. Like it's not easy to come back. Like even when we would take like a week off, like it would be like coming back and getting on that mound is it's kind of like, it's not like riding a bike again. It's not like that aspect. Like you got to get your whole body in sync again. You got to start. It's like when you got your field pitches, you got to get your curveball, you got to get your changeup, you got to get like everything just kind of coming into its own again. Taking all that time off, I think Armand, Tyone, and Kluber have all looked super impressive.
I completely agree. I think mentally too, right? Like, I mean, yeah, you mentioned physical, and that's absolutely true. But I mean, think of mentally, like coming back after sitting as a pitcher for a month. You go in that game and you're just like mentally, you're not 100% locked in. You're not as confident. And so you take Herman and put him in the major leagues. It's, and then the fact that he did what he did, and he's kind of like has a target on his back, like, should you even be here? And even within his own clubhouse, it's kind of like the same thing. So to come out in the spring and dominate, it definitely shows a degree of mental toughness that I think will bode well for him as he tries to win this job, which I think he absolutely is going to win the job. But then like Montgomery and Garcia, every time they go out, it's like they one up each other. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I do like his upside.
Yeah, he has looked good.
It just doesn't seem like he's missed a beat since he was basically going to be, I don't know if he was, I don't remember if he was the all-star team starter that one year, that crazy first half he had.
Yeah, because
I want to say it was 2018
half or something like that.
Yeah, he was like 8-0 or something like that. It literally seems like he's right back to that. Like he didn't miss like a single beat. And so I think that would give him the edge because they've seen him do that in, a real season already, where Devi hasn't done that in the real season yet consistently, and same with Montgomery. So I think he kind of is definitely going to get a spot.
I think it's pretty clear that Cashman went with the, I don't want to say quantity over quality approach, just because we've seen all these guys be quality arms at the major league level, but I think he did prioritize getting a bunch of guys instead of throwing a lot of money at one starting pitcher. But you three all being pitchers yourselves, you touched on it. Do you think we're going to be able to get 25 to 30 starts from some of these guys? I mean, if you look at past Garrett Cole, Tyone hasn't pitched since early 2019. Kluber threw an inning last year. We saw 5 starts of Severino in 2019, including the playoffs, and nothing at all in 2020, and no Herman in 2020. So, like, what is an honest expectation for these guys who even, Severino is a little bit different. We don't know if he's coming back June, July, whenever. But even the other 3 guys who I mentioned who are pitching right now, can they give us 25 or 30 starts? Like, what's an honest expectation in your minds for, like, inning starts? Because I think that, we need to kind of temper our expectations, because no matter how good these guys look, what matters is having them ready in October.
Yeah, I mean, I the way I see it is I've always been a big fan of like that 6 starter. It's not something that people do consistently, but I do think that the aspect of like a 6-man rotation is very smart, especially one with this much like depth to it, and just like you said, quantity over quality arms, not exactly sacrificing total quality, but a little bit less. So I think when you have all these guys that are coming back from injury, I think you're going to find them when you look at the overall of the season, I think you're going to see that they were successful. But when you look at like little spurts, I think you're going to find them slumping because they're coming back. Oh, like their fastball looks good, their changeup looks good, but then they might have one pitch that they're not like really consistently feeling. So they're going to have to fall back to some old ways. And I think it's going to take them some time, either skipping a start, kind of like what they did with Happy, even though that was for other reasons. But like little things like that, like, okay, look, Kluber hasn't felt himself lately. Taillon hasn't felt himself lately. Let's skip this start, push him back 2 days. Let's give Garcia a spot start. Let's give, whether it's Armand, whoever it is, Schmidt, like, let's give him a spot start and kind of let one of these guys kind of fall back. Just you give them a bullpen day, 20, 30 pitches, work with the pitching coach, work with whoever they need to kind of get their body in sync and everything kind of going again. So I wouldn't be shocked to see, even if they are healthy, like 15 to 20 starts. That's kind of where I see it realistically. Anything above that, I think is, we got a great season out of them. We got what we wanted.
Yeah. And again, I think, we have a lot of depth, and I think that was designed. So as you said, they can all be fresh come October, which is obviously their goal every year. But I know, and with the depth we have now, a 6-man rotation throughout the entire year would actually make perfect sense, just because you have those guys. And it's tough to stick Devi down in AAA whenever that starts, and have him just go against that competition when he could be growing and become, something so much more if you just add that 6-guy rotation.
Yeah.
And knowing the Yankees too, like they've thought about this because they map everything out almost annoyingly. But I mean, I think it'll be less about starts and more about innings. Like I don't think you'll see Kluber or Taillon going 6, 7 innings, 8 innings, especially early in the season. I think it'll be a lot of like manipulation, to your point, Rob, like, slotting a guy in when you have an extra day, like a Devi Garcia. I mean, you have so much depth, use it to your advantage, don't go out and rely on Corey Kluber to give you 30 starts like he's, 30-year-old Corey Kluber. Same thing with Taillon. I think that these guys are going to be ramped up. They're coming off major injuries, to your point, Nick, about not pitching last year. Like, I mean, Taillon's coming off his second Tommy John, which I don't know the statistics on guys that have had 2 Tommy Johns, but they're probably not good. And then Corey Kluber's coming off major injuries. So I think that you'll see them be ramped up. And even at their peak, I think that they'll just be saving them for October, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. It's almost annoying to be a Yankee fan because it's like, no matter how well they do, it's, well, see in October. It's like, do we have the pitching for October? Aaron Judge gets hurt. It's like, well, let's just have him for October. It's kind of annoying, but at the same time, like, this team hasn't won a World Series since 2009. So I definitely think that those guys are X factors in terms of the staff, but the whole year, I would be surprised if they go, more than 20 starts.
Nick, what are you thinking?
No, I think
you
that's
concur with the pitchers panel.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just asking the questions here. You guys are the pitchers. I haven't pitched past, freaking Babe Ruth, so I have no idea what it's like to build up in any capacity. But I think, what you just said, Brian, is really true, that, it's really only October that matters for the Yankees. And I think that's why the expanded playoffs was maybe my least favorite rule change from last year too. And I didn't hate it for the 60-game season, just because 60 games really not enough time for anyone to establish themselves. I mean, if you look at the Washington Nationals would have missed the playoffs after 60 games in 2019. So I think you kind of needed it. But if you're going to play 162 games and you have a team like the Yankees who's done everything they can to put themselves in a position where they can probably win 95, 100 games and the division, to just put them in a 3-game set with a team that they're probably going to win 20, 25 more games then, and the only thing you give the Yankees is home field advantage, that's just not fair. And I get that casual fans say, oh, well, it's cool to see more teams in the playoffs. If you want to get your team into the playoffs, put some money into your roster, win some games. I mean, even the Tampa Bay Rays and the Cleveland Indians are in the playoffs a lot, and they don't spend money. So it's not my fault that a franchise is either too inept to build a winner, too cheap to spend the money, or a combination of the two. So I hate the expanded playoffs personally, because if you're going to play 162 games, you can't water it down and let more than half the league in the playoffs. You just can't.
Yeah, I agree. So just in terms of what we're looking forward to and kind of like what we want to see with baseball, I mean, we're all huge baseball fans, just in terms of, the MLB and what it can be. But I mean, I think we can all agree it's not at its peak in terms of what it is like from how it's run from Rob Manfred. Are there like any changes that like you guys are like, I would love to see baseball do this, do that, like, or anything like that? Like, I know Nick has said his idea for like an MLB red zone type. Like, I think like that's something that would be really cool. Do you guys have kind of any like how do we make baseball better as fans?
I mean, that's a good question. I feel like, I mean, I don't know. The MLB red zone thing, that's pretty interesting. What's like that idea?
I mean, just in my mind, I think that MLB has spent so much time focusing on how to shorten games when at the end of the day, like, yeah, I like certain rules. I like that they limited, mound visits and stuff like that. I like things that make the game flow a little bit better. But when you start talking about, really shortening the game and trying to, make it go quicker, how much faster are you really going to make it? 15, 20 minutes max? That's not going to be the difference between someone saying, I'm not interested in baseball, it takes too long, and let me go watch a full 9-inning baseball game. So I think with the red zone, you can kind of get the experience where you jump around from game to game, you see action, people could tune in and out, see what, maybe they're betting on, if they got prop bets on a guy or something. I think it's just a way where you don't have to touch the actual gameplay. So diehard fans like us who are willing to sit down and watch a 4.5-hour Yankees Red Sox game, we don't get pissed off. At the same time, people who are maybe only willing to consume 45 minutes to an hour of baseball can be like, all right, this is pretty cool. Let me see what's going on around the league.
That's a really interesting idea. I mean, that's the first time I've heard that, but it makes all the sense in the world, because if any sport needs a red zone, it's baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just want to expedite the process to like watch the action, that's the thing. That's a tool to use, right? I mean, so I like the idea. But I mean, in terms of growing the game, I feel like it's a combination of everything. Like, first you have to market your young players, your exciting players. You have to let them perform. Like this whole unwritten rules stuff of pegging guys when they're bat flipping. Like, and I come from, I love baseball, right? I've watched my whole life, and there's some unwritten rules that I respect. But when you're talking about guys bat flipping and expressing themselves, like, I'm all about the energy. That's part of the reason like the World Baseball Classic is so exciting, because it's like guys are just out there literally just playing the game. Like, there's no unwritten rules. It's like backyard baseball. Right. And we all grew up playing that type of game in our backyards and, in the rec fields and whatever. And that's like what they have to do in order to market it to not adults, but like younger players, the younger generation. You want to start making it exciting, do that. Also too, like the whole 6-year arbitration is ridiculous. I mean, if you want to get the best athletes, yes, when you reach free agency, you're going to get paid, but it takes you 6 years. And that's not even, that's not including the fact that you have to go and play in the minor leagues before you even get the clock started. So if you're a top athlete, are you going to go play basketball where you can go to UNC and then go to the league and make millions of dollars? Or are you going to go play baseball where you're not going to get paid for like 8 years, So I think that's something that is not really talked about that much, but that is definitely something that younger players definitely need.
Yeah, Chinni, that's a great point that I actually haven't really heard when people talk about growing the game, is like that 6-year arbitration aspect. Like, even when like Tatis got that crazy deal, like it got people talking about baseball. Like, oh my God, this is a crazy deal. When you heard, like, remember when Mike Conley was the highest paid player in the NBA, and people are like, wait, what the hell is going on with the NBA? It just gets people talking about the sport and like notating like who players are. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who like are casual baseball fans, and much less than that. Like, I'm saying like casual and below, who are like, I've heard Tatis's name like once or twice, but like I don't know much about him. And then you see 14-year deal, like that stands out to you. You know what I mean? Like that's like sort of like an X factor that brings you into the game. Like, what the hell is going on with baseball right now? So like getting like almost like back like to crazy contracts is a way to almost make the game more exciting. So that's an awesome point that I actually haven't heard in a while.
I agree. I don't think there's much you can do in game wise to change it. Like Nick said, like you're going to maybe get 15, 20 minutes. That's not going to really do you much in that aspect. It's really just growing it. And I think, I love the red zone idea. But with these blackout restrictions, the MLB is there's just such a terrible job of growing their game. So you can't watch games. You can get the full MLB subscription, but then you can't watch a team in your area because of the blackout restriction. Like, I mean, it's just a really bad job.
Yeah, this is at Hulu. If they're watching this, I don't know if any network executives at Hulu watches, but I literally I'm canceling Hulu because they don't have a deal with Yes Network. So I'm going back to cable because I want to watch the Yankees. I want to watch baseball. Well, not yet. And now I have the Yes app too. Yeah. So but I wasn't able to sign in with that through Hulu.
Yeah, you need
I canceled cable. I cut the cord. Yeah, I cut the cord, and I'm canceling Hulu because no one wants to buy baseball. And these networks are, I guess, streaming services more just don't really have any interest in it. Like, how do you not have a deal with the Yankees? How can you not work that out? So, I mean, just and that kind of relates back to the blackout restriction point, where it's just the games aren't available to people, and it's just ridiculous. How can you grow the game if nobody can watch it?
Exactly.
Rob and I could talk for hours about how terrible of a job Rob Manfred's doing, and it never ceases to make me as angry as it does. I just get worked up that this guy who doesn't even like baseball is in charge of our sport. But on a lighter note, we said before, fans are going to be back from the ballparks this year. I know you guys, I'm sure, are just excited to get back to Yankee Stadium as we are. What's your game day routine if you're going to a Yankee game? Picture it's mid-June, nice night, maybe 65, 70 degrees, a little breeze flowing. What's your game plan of how you're getting to get into the Bronx? What's your pregame spot? What are you eating? What are you drinking? Just give me the full ambiance.
Well, you got to get there early. I'm all about leaving early. There's the one thing I absolutely hate is when I'm going to a game and I'm running late because I'm going with somebody that doesn't care about getting there early, and we get there at first pitch. Nothing makes me more upset than that. I just paid all this money to not even enjoy myself before the game. So I'm leaving 7:00 game. I'm leaving at 3:00, getting there at about 4:30, depending on the traffic. And then I don't know, just grabbing a beer by what's the thing in center field? The batter's eye with the huge concourse there, Yankee Stadium. That's the best feeling ever. But yeah, so definitely that. And then watching BP, hopefully, trying to get down, except it's madness there. People just crowd that. But I think the one game we went to, Chuck, that we got there at first pitch was the freaking AL wildcard game against the Twins in 2017, and Severino takes him out. It's the first time we've been in the playoffs since I mean, we had the stupid Houston game where we got blanked, but other than that, 2013, and Severino gives up 3 runs, and I was so angry. We got there.
Oh my God!
We sat in the line for what it felt like forever, and we finally get in, and they're playing the national anthem, and then Severino's getting rocked. I was an absolute mess.
He was not a happy person.
Number one rule: you have to get there early. Maybe catch some chicken fingers in the bucket cup, but absolutely get there.
Oh, especially with that stimulus, I'll take the big bucket. Don't give me the cup with the straw, with the cup on top of the drink. I want the bucket.
Gotta have the bucket.
Me and Nick found the perfect deal. It's essentially free popcorn. But if you split it with a few people, it's $11 for essentially endless popcorn. So you have it until I think it's
the end of the 7th.
Yeah, that's right above the bleachers, right?
Yep, exactly. That's exactly where it is. It's free popcorn. If you split it with 3 people, you get endless popcorn for 2 hours.
Why do they cut it off like it's beer? As if you eat too much popcorn, you're not gonna be okay to drive home. Why do they end it after?
I guess they're just all right, we're losing money at this point.
I love it. But no, free popcorn. And then Rob and I are also big proponents. We take the MTA from Tarrytown, free parking. Even though it's not actually free, we just have never gotten ticketed. So if you're a Tarrytown cop,
don't listen.
Turn around. Turn this off.
The parking, I feel goes up by $10 every year.
Literally every year.
Parking is ridiculous.
Yeah, sometimes I used to be $33. Now it's $58 to park.
Yeah, it's
a lot.
It literally used to be $30. Now it's $60.
It's going to go up this year too. Oh, this year
it'll be $75.
Yeah,
minimum.
insane.
Yeah. Well, regardless, we're kind of running out of time here with our Zoom. It is still free Zoom, not made of money here, like the Yankees. But thank you guys for joining us. Obviously, we're looking forward to getting back to Yankee Stadium. Maybe we'll see you guys at a game this year. So thanks for joining us. Any last remarks before we head out?
Chuck.
I was gonna say, Brian, you got anything?
I mean, I will say it's absolute privilege to be on this show. I've had a blast. I'm sure Chuck has had the same, but I mean, I'm just counting down the days to opening day, and hopefully we can actually stay healthy this year for the Yanks and go at least 2 weeks without any injuries. So I'm looking forward to that.
That'd be nice. That'd be a miracle. 2 weeks with no injuries. But yeah, no, it's great
For a
being here. And you know, if we don't win the World Series, yeah, I'm gonna be super disappointed.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. Really appreciate it. Good to see you. Obviously, both. Maybe we'll get together soon, figure something out. So I appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon.
All right. Thanks,
No
Rob.
problem.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, boys.